You ever seen or conversed with an alien?
Yes, I have.
So what was that life like?
Well, I was a woman in that life.
So a lot of people are taught about heaven and hell. What's been your experience with that? Is it real?
I have friends there.
All right, welcome to the Digital Social Hour. I'm your host, Sean Kelly. I'm here with my co-host, Charlie Cavalier, and our guest today, Matias De Stefano. How's it going, man?
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. You flew out on a layover.
Yeah, I wasn't supposed to be in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm going to Miami, actually.
Wow. What are you going to Miami for?
They invited me to a Bitcoin conference, which I don't understand anything, but my friend does, so
Okay.
I'm going to be accompanying him.
So you're getting into crypto.
Not me. Well, I don't know. Actually, I'm just friends of two people that are involved into the conference, and they said you have to come because we want to introduce the people.
Nice.
So I'm gonna be there, not understanding anything, but maybe I will.
Yeah, that's our space. We're into crypto.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Miami's
cool.
doing a lot of cool stuff in the tech scene too.
So yeah, I don't know why, but yeah.
Are you excited to go? Are you nervous or any feelings
I don't
about
like
crypto?
Miami.
Okay, really? Why not?
Yeah, we got to
I
get
don't
into
know.
that.
Too much humidity. But yeah, I'm excited because it's something new for me that I don't understand at all. So it's good.
So right now you live in Argentina?
Kind of. Yeah, I'm moving from Europe, Argentina.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to give a quick backstory for people watching that don't know your story.
Sure. Well, I was born in Argentina. I'm also Italian, but mainly Argentinian. Basically, my crazy story was that since I was born, I was able to keep remembering everything that happened before I was born. And for me, it was natural. My family was agnostic, no religion at all, nothing. So everything was a creativity. Like I was too creative for them. So they encouraged me to tell the stories of what I remembered and to make drawings and everything. So it was not a spiritual thing. It was much more a creative thing. Mm-hmm. And I started to study education because I wanted to help other kids that were going through the same thing that I was going through. Because I realized that there were many kids remembering and feeling things that nobody could help them to understand what was happening.
Right.
So... And every day I met more in my neighborhood, in my classrooms.
Wow.
So, but they shut up because of their religions or whatever, or fear. So I decided to study education in order to help teachers mainly to understand a different way of perceiving reality so they could manage that in classrooms, in schools. So I've been trying to do that for the first years after I finished high school in Spain. Mm-hmm. And but suddenly they started to ask me, well, why these children are different. So I started to explain dimensions and frequencies and then started to explain everything that I remember in order to help them understand why we were being born different. And that took me to explain aliens and past lives and stuff that I wasn't supposed to explain. That It was not my goal, but people start to wonder and ask me, and I started to answer like naturally. So someone filmed me, put it in YouTube, and suddenly everyone was looking at me.
Well, viral for that.
Yeah.
So was it that part of the world where kids were remembering past lives, or is it a worldwide thing, you think?
It's a worldwide thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Wow.
We are connecting not only past lives. We usually talk about past life, but it's not just that. That's only one thing. It's about connectivity. We are getting tuned and connected again with the entire planet. So we are waking up as a whole, and many people are living this chaotically. We don't understand why we are living this or how to manage this new reality, this new way of perceiving reality with the one that we have today. So basically I started to educate people, and by educate I don't mean teaching, I mean like helping through experiences to people to remember by themselves and to feel that connectivity. So I've been doing trips around the world, connecting places and showing people the links between those places with history and the future. And mainly my main love in all this is not spirituality, it's actually society. I love to contribute into the creation of a new philosophy for a new kind of society in the future. That was my main goal. But people now are in a very inner crisis of who we are, why are we doing this, where are we heading to. So most of the questions that we have today is about consciousness. And I was against spirituality for my whole life because my family was agnostic. Right. My grandfather was against religion, and so I was trying to be far away from all that. Right. But even though I was born very spiritual, like was my nature, so I started to use that as a tool to help others to understand society, nature.
Do you feel like you do as much convincing as you have to do educating? Just making people receptive to your ideas and your beliefs, or do you feel like you get to do as much education as you want to, or do you still fight the uphill battle of convincing people of what you believe in?
Well, I'm not fighting anything to convince anybody. Good. Like, I don't care. Actually, it's one of my philosophies is that I don't care to convince anybody. Basically, I put my life in service to those that are wondering and questioning, but not to convince everybody that this is the truth, because what I say is not the truth. It's just my perception and my memory about it, but nobody has the complete truth. So it's impossible to say, I have to convince you that this is the right way.
Right. It's impossible to prove.
It's impossible to prove. Yeah. You can prove some things because most of the people today are talking about what 10 years ago was difficult to talk about, like spirituality, connectivity, the universe, quantum physics, and all this connected as one. So I think that people are getting involved into this, and you don't have to convince them. It's because people are feeling it already, like somehow. So a lot of people has questions. So basically, I try to answer the questions to those who ask the questions, and not try to impose information to those who don't answer.
So how many of your past lives do you remember? Do you remember all of them?
Not all of them. Many of them, but not all of them. Most of them are meaningless for what I am doing now. They were just things that helped me to understand some things in my own life. Right. But mainly two of them are the ones that have been guiding me in my mission today in this life.
Which two were those?
2 or 3.
Was that the one when you were in Atlantis?
Yes, in the province of Atlantis.
Right. Yes. So what was that life like?
Well, I was a woman in that life, and the society was matriarchal. So there were no kings and queens. There were circles of people ruling. So sometimes it was like a circle of women, and every few year or few months, we switch positions. So I was part of one of the circles because of blood coming from a high family in the region of the Nile. And well, I was living 12,000 years ago. Wow. Mostly, at the end of the glaciation.
That's crazy.
How are you able to access like these specific memories, or do they appear? Is it something you have to work towards, or how are you able to find these places in your brain or consciousness where they are?
Well, they just I started to remember when I was 12 years old, and it was like pains in my head, like I was started to be headache and flashes, and it was all mixed. So it took me like 10 years until I put many of the things together and understood the whole picture. And even today, I am putting much more of these pictures together. Like many things that I saw when I was 12 make sense now, actually, like last week, for example. Many of the things that I remember is a practice. first it was natural. Like I started to remember, and it started to come. But then when I was after 18 or 19 years old, it stopped being natural and it became like an exercise, like drawing, writing, trying to figure out how to put one thing together with the other. And there are some periods, like when I was 24, that I started to remember more things for a year, and then it stopped, and then it was a practice again. So it's like if you are dreaming but you're awake.
Right.
That's the feeling, which I was just describing that my teenagehood was like living in a constant ayahuasca ceremony. like it's kind of that description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just, speaking of ayahuasca, you just took it, right?
3 weeks ago.
Yeah. What was that like? Because it's on my bucket list. I've been wanting to do it one day.
Oh, it's for me, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Of course. Every time that I did it, well, I didn't do it much, but the first time was in 2016, then 2017, and now, 3 weeks ago. For me, it's like going back home. It's like going to the network and being able to dive in the subconscious, which is like relaxing for those who can remember the universe.
Right.
Sometimes is terrible for those who are afraid of losing control.
Right.
When you are used to being in control of everything that you do, when you say this is me, this is Matias, and I can't think about me being something else, or being afraid of losing yourself. Those people can suffer it a lot.
They have a bad trip.
Yeah. But that's why I recommend to let yourself go, because it's beautiful to go to dive into the subconscious.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're on psychedelics, sometimes you see geometric patterns.
Yeah.
What do these patterns mean?
Well, basically, the entire universe is about patterns. So when you usually do psychedelics, you start to see the patterns, and you start to see how not only there's a triangle, but also three people might be the triangle in your life. So you understand the connectivity between these three people and how they help you to shape a square. And you say, why a square from a triangle? So when you start to see the patterns, you start to perceive the shapes, the depth of the information through patterns. And when you come back, you start to understand why things that happen in your life, or people you know in your life, are the right people or the right situations, because everything is linked and it's part of a perfect structure.
Wow.
The universe is basically a perfect structure of information. Information means that nothing is really pre-designed, but everything has a design that is constantly forming itself. That is, it's shaping constantly. And so it means that you have free will, but with certain tools. So basically, that's why when you enter in that reality, you start to go into the subconscious, where everything is patterns. It's not reality. It's just information that is connected through patterns. That's why it's the best way to crack your mind and to enter what it really is, because this is just a hologram of patterns.
Do you think those patterns form organically, or do you think we, as a triangle of people or a network of connections, fall into like a predetermined set of whether it's triangles, 4 things, whatever it might be?
Well, you have to think that sometimes when in our human way of perceiving things, we think that there is a pattern and we adapt to that pattern, but actually we are the pattern. So as we move, as we know someone, as we shake hands with someone, we are linking patterns. So it's not that there's a pattern that you have to get into, it's that you moving create the pattern. So basically, it's like if you have a triangle, and in order to be a perfect pattern, it needs to be like this, but somehow it's deformed because you are not doing what you are supposed to do. So you are doing whatever is not that you're doing a wrong thing. Is that you're wasting a lot of energy because you don't know where to position yourself. So when you go back to yourself, and that's one of the philosophical concepts, when you go back to yourself, you locate yourself in the right position of the structure, which makes the energy flow too fast. So you have better results, for example. That's why people that usually go to themselves get results very fast than the people that is trying to work hard in order to get something, because they are trying to be someone else. And that's you're out of your position on the geometry.
That makes sense, because people try to pretend to be Mr. Beast and then it doesn't work out.
Well, we've heard that a lot. Lately. It's just be yourself and be, stay in with what you do, be original.
Being a part of that system helps you to understand that you are not conditioned by a system. It's you who build the system. You are tied to the structure because you are the structure. And sometimes I've heard a lot of people saying, we live in a matrix. We don't live in a matrix. We are the matrix, which is totally different.
Right.
Because when you think you live in the matrix, it's like if you are trapped and you have to go somewhere else. But if you go out from this matrix, you don't exist, because basically you are created by this matrix. Your name, your DNA, your thoughts are all conditioned by this matrix. So eventually you realize, oh, wait a moment, I am the matrix. So when you recognize that, you find your position. So suddenly you find the structure, and the whole structure starts to work according to what you need in that position.
I like it.
I want to touch up on space. Charlie and I love space. We always talk about going to space one day. Is the Big Bang Theory true?
A part of it.
Which part?
The boom. But it's not the beginning.
Okay.
So what existed before the beginning?
Oh, there was another amazing reality.
Wow.
It's a constant reality held by the void. Actually, the only thing that exists is the void. The Big Bang was just an expression of the void being expressed in a different frequency than it used to do before. So it's like a heartbeat, but very slow.
Okay.
So basically the boom is like boom, and eventually boom, 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 boom. So basically the whole creation is like a heartbeat. And it's a pulse. Everything is a pulse. So there was an origin. It is only an origin because we are living in between that pulse that has been created. But before there was another one and another one and another one.
Wow.
And it's so huge and eternal that it doesn't have space. It doesn't have time. Time and space are just one of the expressions of this pulse that has been created. But before it's relative, it was another kind of expression that had a different space and a different time.
Wow, that's trippy.
So is there a parallel universe with a different pulse to us? Right.
Like billions of it.
Do you think you can experience them while staying in this universe?
Yes. When you connect with the data, just data. When you go to the 100, when you go there, you can perceive each one of the other options.
How do you get there?
Well, it's tough. Because first of all, you have to transition your own life in a way that you release or transcend all your beliefs and even who you are. And you transcend the idea of death. So you have to die many times in order to achieve the concept of no death.
Wow.
And when you do that, you can experience every death as an option and not as a result.
Wow.
And so ancient civilizations used to do this a lot. They had a lot of practices of death. In our cultures, we are afraid of dying because you have only two options, hell or heaven.
Right.
So even if you don't believe in it, your whole DNA have been listening to that for so long.
Right.
Like so many generations listening, you have to do it right because it's the only chance that you have, and otherwise you go to hell or heaven. So people is afraid of dying. But other cultures that doesn't get afraid of death, they are much more likely to experience those other realities as true. Like people in the middle of the rainforest, people in the middle of the desert, people that have accomplished to die many times in life, and they already know that they are not who they think they are. So that released the tension of survival.
Wow.
When you release the tension of survival, which is all your cells trying to be you, and you just release that tension, suddenly every cell can become an option of a new you, which is trillions of options.
Wow.
And that opens your mind into...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Touching back on space again.
It's not for a weekend.
Yeah, that would take many lifetimes. I don't think we'll get there this time.
Could you train Sean to transcend and experience other parallel universes?
Well, you have to... Well, the fastest way is all the psychedelics, but with an intention.
Right.
Like, I will use this tool with intention of
X, yeah.
something, not just I will check.
Right.
So if you set an intention, your cells will follow the intention.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Do you believe in spirits and ghosts and the afterlife?
Well, I lived that. So I don't believe it.
Wait, hold on.
It's my reality.
The answer to do you believe in ghosts in the afterlife is yeah, I've lived it.
Yeah, so
Okay, one, I got. What were the ghosts like? What did they say? Right. What were the ghosts like? Like
the
ghost
ghost
experiences.
I wouldn't recommend to
what you
to
can't
be in touch with ghosts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mainly, it's not because they are scary. It's because they are lost souls that are in the fourth dimension,
Okay.
and they think that they are still alive. There's a lot of people like that, and they can grab you in their stories, and you can end up in a story that you don't want. And somehow when you die, you maybe find them, and they will ask for help, and you get also in that state. So actually, I wouldn't recommend to talk to ghosts unless
Wouldn't you want to talk
you
to a
have
ghost?
the gift to do it, and you
Like a
have
medium.
the task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what... Because there's dead people that show up in my dreams.
Yes.
Are those ghosts trying to reach out to me?
It could be.
Right.
Yeah. You can tell they are real when your nervous system feels them. Like if you feel your hands getting wet, or your feet cold, or your neck cold, or these kind of things that usually describe creepy things.
Right.
You know, like, but actually is your nervous system feeling the change of frequency around you. So usually when they are close, the frequency gets lower.
Wow.
So that's why your nervous system gets ready to like feel cold or something.
Yeah, so that means the dream world is linked to the fourth dimension then.
Yeah, because it's all controlled by your hypophysis and your thalamus.
I knew it. I told you.
You did.
Center of
I
your
always
brain.
thought that.
Yep.
So it's all connected to the emotional level, and it's like a tuning, like biological antenna for all the frequencies that are around. So basically, we have to understand that dimensions are not places, are tunings. So it's like a radio station. So when someone from the other dimension tries to tune with you, you start to the radio station is your pineal gland. So that's why you start to understand it through the nervous system before your mind or your emotion.
Wow.
It's like your body starts to feel it,
And
they
I've
can
had that
communicate
feeling.
because of dreams. It's like the machine of the hypothalamus is like creating all these packages of data, of information while you sleep, like trying to administrate all the information you have received during the day. So when they tune with you, they use your data, not knowing that they are doing it, but they tune with your process of information. They can talk to you.
Wow, that's scary.
Through that.
I feel like you've been training for this.
Dude.
If you've been training for this, well,
I'm trying to master lucid dreaming because I want to be able to achieve astral projection.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But you mentioned pineal gland.
Well, that opened the fourth dimension, so you have to take care.
Yeah. You mentioned pineal gland earlier.
Yes.
Is it true that fluoride suppresses it?
Well, I don't know if it's true because I never try it. Like, I never...
You don't use toothpaste?
Yeah, of course. That's why, yes, I'm more disconnected now. Yeah, of course, most of the things that we not only eat, but drink, the water has that.
Yeah.
I don't know why, if there is something on purpose that they're doing or something that someone came up with in order to clean the water, but they are putting that in all the water that you drink from the tap.
Yeah.
And that makes your brain slower. And
Wow.
That calcifies the pineal gland. Yeah, I don't have the right information for that, but I have been, doctors saying that to me, like, yeah, we have this, and you have to clean the water so it doesn't have fluor, because usually if you see all this, all the parents saying to the children, you have to brush your teeth, and they use the fluor for that. So in the first 7 years that you use that, you start to shut off the radio station.
Right.
So the most important period of time that you shouldn't use fluor in anything, water or brushing your teeth or whatever, is before 7 years old.
Wow. That's good to know for our kids.
Because it's when the brain is still developing.
Right.
And they are still open to every possibility because they have the imagination open. And our culture says that children has imagination, but then they have to be responsible. But actually, the people that changed the world had a lot of imagination. So basically, you are killing all the people that is going to transform the world just because you want for them to brush their teeth.
So what's your water recommendation? So what water do I drink? What water should I drink then?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Natural water from a natural source?
What do you prefer when, because you do a decent amount of traveling, you're obviously very conscious about what you put in your body. What do you try to make sure you
Not
eat
much.
and drink? Okay.
The thing is that how do I put this in words? The thing is that I don't care. Again,
right.
Like I do care for the people that are trying to transform it, but it's like if personally I have this conflict with myself that I don't actually care if I die because of so many experiences and I remember many deaths.
Right.
So it's like, you know what? If I want to eat a candy this life, we didn't have chocolate. In other times or in other dimensions, we don't have things.
You've had worse lives
soda.
before than the one he's living now, is what he's trying to say.
I'm trying to live, yeah. So, but when I am doing a task, like I have to work spiritually or energetically in some place, I usually stop eating many of the things and start to take right water, right everything to clean the body in order for the channel to be much more prepared. But I'm not like someone that says you should do this in order to. No, I think that everyone has a different way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are taught about heaven and hell.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with that? Is it real?
I have friends there.
Yeah.
In both places?
In both places. You have to have friends everywhere, just in case. Hell and heaven are basically the two extremes of the subconscious. So they don't really exist. They are adaptable to your own state of mind. So when you die, it's not the end of your life. It's basically your information transcends into another frequency. So what you are now physically is just a package of data that has been used for a certain amount of time to accomplish something. But then the information keeps going. So the energy keeps going. So according to the frequency you have been working during your life, that frequency will keep going. So all the realities that you will live in the fourth and fifth dimension will depend on the frequency that you are in. If you're in a very low frequency, that means that you will tune to all the realities or projections that are in a low frequency. And if you're in a high frequency, you will see all the realities in the high frequency.
Wow.
So, but that's tuned to you. So it's not that there is a place with fire and demons and these kind of things. It's that the people that have been in a very low frequency, what they usually see are all their fears becoming true. So those fears becoming true in that reality, which is the fourth dimension, no time, no space. When you start to see that and people came back from that and wrote about it, they describe hell.
Wow.
But actually, it was their hell. Maybe, I don't know, my hell would be waiting in a line for millions of years,
at the DMV.
waiting for the doctor.
Yeah.
Something like that. I hate being in a line.
Yeah, same.
So, or a constant Disney World without games.
Yeah.
So that would be a hell. So it depends on the person, depends on the person, the hell you will have.
Right.
Because it depends on the frequency.
So your decisions and beliefs in this life and existence determine what your post-current form life or existence is going to be like.
For sure, Christian people will see Jesus until you expand so much in the other reality that suddenly Jesus starts to become an angel, and the angel starts to become a huge Metatron cube, and suddenly the Metatron cube become a triangle, and you see a very deep light behind, and you say, oh, God, an eye, the eye that sees everything, and suddenly you go to the eye, and you see the void, and in the void you feel the hole, and that's beautiful.
Wow.
When you get there. But before, you, an Hinduist person will see Krishna, or it's according to the frequency that you have been working with. Yeah.
So there's 9 dimensions.
Mainly.
You've been to all of them.
We all have.
Oh, we all have. Well, you remember all of them. We don't.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite dimension?
Well, it depends. I would say that the 6th dimension, because it's the one that you modify all realities. It's the one that you are the creator, basically, and you can take anything and make it transform into something different. So it's like playing with the reality, like if it's clay.
Wow.
That's the 6th dimension, and it's beautiful.
That sounds powerful.
That sounds,
Sounds fun.
But besides that, you don't feel emotions. So the only dimension where you can actually feel the result of that transformation is the 3rd dimension.
Wow.
So when you say fun, it's here.
Right.
So the 3rd dimension is more fun than other dimensions because you actually feel what has been created. In other dimensions, you have the joy, or you can describe it as joy or ecstasy of being creator or being the light. But it's not that you will enjoy it.
You won't feel it, the emotion.
You won't feel the emotion to compare it with something.
Wow.
Why is that?
Because the 3rd dimension separates everything. So, for example, for every emotion, you have an hormone. So the hormones had a specific energetical charge that will push your brain to feel a specific frequency. In the 6th dimension, all of that is together. So you can only feel high. It's like living in a constant orgasm, but believe me, you don't want that if you're in the 3rd dimension. You need to relax.
Right.
It's incredible when you compare it with the 3rd dimension because you have the way to compare in the 3rd dimension.
Okay.
In other dimensions, you don't have the way to compare exactly.
Right.
Like in the 4th dimension, for example, you cannot compare the sentence "when I was younger." because there is no when I was younger. You can be that young when you just think about it. So it's very relative on how you separate or relate to the things. So it's very difficult to explain the emotion into another dimension, because it's not separated like we have it here because of the hormones.
Because there's no time there, right?
There's no time, and there's no specific structures of matter. Like matter in the third dimension has manifested all the different frequencies of other dimensions and manifested into a conjunction of energy, which is particles and molecules. And so that's the reaction that we usually feel as an emotion. But imagine that energy free. If you have that energy discompact, like in the seventh dimension, for example, you have enlightenment. So you only see energy and it's flowing everywhere, and you cannot compare you with me because it doesn't exist. So in the seventh dimension, there are no beings.
Wow.
Are just different rays of the light that come from the same source and reflect to one another constantly, but they seem different because they have colors, but actually it's just light.
Wow.
So you see them as archangels, or you can call them archangels, but actually for the seventh dimension, it's just rays of light. So there's no way to compare the difference between one another.
Are the light able to communicate, or no, it's all visual?
Yeah, it's the communication is the frequency, that the speed of frequency that the photons have. So
wow,
that's the data.
So you're only going to be able to interact with other people that were in your frequency in this afterlife period?
Yeah, that's why people choose to be a ghost.
Please come back here.
You mentioned within one of the 9 dimensions, you can meet God.
Yeah.
You said not a lot of people reach that dimension, but you have.
Well, not me as Matias.
But you in a past life.
We all have been, we all are that there. And we all can tune to that. It's just that we need to find the right way or moment to do it if it's needed. I had, yes, and it's something that you cannot explain.
Really?
It's very complicated because it's everything at once, and it's just like a constant breathing, where in every breath you can feel the entire universe, and you can understand everything without willing to understand it. And there's no purpose. There's nothing more than just but in every breath is everything. That's
crazy.
Very difficult to actually describe.
Yeah.
What it feels, the ninth dimension.
9th dimension, man. We gotta get there.
We gotta get there. Is there a moment or an existence that you would live in constantly as opposed to this one if you had the choice to? Like if you could just flip the switch and have any sort of other existence than the one you have here sitting on the couch right now, would you do that, or would you stay here now?
Well, I would, like 6th dimension, as I said.
Yeah.
But actually, I know that I am there transforming a pattern so I could be here.
Okay.
So basically, I am there. So
that's a roundabout way of getting around that answer.
So, yeah, it's just that I am not consciously aware constantly of that state of myself. Yeah.
What has been your favorite life in the 3rd dimension? Was it in Atlantis? Was it in Egypt during the pyramids? Was it something else?
Yeah, it was during the Atlantean period. It was a very good life, even though we had many structures to follow. It was very, very nice.
What was the food like in Atlantis?
There's something that I always remember eating, which was snake.
Ooh.
And
never had it. You shook.
I did.
Yes, I remember they cooking it like in a spiral way, saying that it gives you strength to go to the spiritual realm. And I remember that dish.
Wow.
that was one of the things that I said I would try it again.
I would try steak. I would try it.
I would have to stop shaking first.
I need the head cut off. I won't want to look into it.
Yeah, I don't want to. If you don't tell me what it is ahead of time,
Yeah, but it was it was not like some people would ask me if they were vegetarians because they had a high consciousness, but no, it was not related to that.
You ate meat. And what role did money play back then? Was there some sort of currency in Atlantis?
It was mainly based in seeds, and some seeds that were geometrical shapes. It was like a coin, but actually was like a sphere with different cuts. So that was used as a very high valuable exchange of currency.
Wow.
But because most of the people lived in communities, we used to call that there were people rich in fish, people rich in pigs, people rich in corn. Well, it was not corn in Africa, but wheat. So there were people rich in different things. So the wealth was calculated in the harvest or the hunting and the exchange of that.
A lot of
value.
trading.
Yeah, and only in certain moments when the quantities were bigger, they used this kind of coins, which were like kind of spherical.
Got it. That's very interesting.
Interesting. Do you remember any of your emotions in relation to maybe like historical events? And not like specific dates, but like, like the downfall of Atlantis or like, major deaths or anything like that where you feel like you can remember your existence in relation to something major happening on this world?
Well, my great-grandfather and mother, they were immigrants from Atlantis when they fall. So I didn't live that, but my grandparents usually told us the story of how it was to leave the main islands and to move to following the masters to the Nile. So I was living the moment of the end of the glaciation. So we experienced the drought and the beginning of the Sahara desert to expand. So that was a moment that historically you can check online that actually happened.
Wow.
Which was the change of the weather in that time. Actually, when I was young, I used to paint the maps. Where was the ice? Where could we go? Where we couldn't? And many years after, and even now, I think Graham Hancock did a documentary, Netflix, that explains all that. And when he was explaining, I was like, I've been there. I saw that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yeah, that's one of the, but it's very way in the past. The other one that I can relate to was 900 years ago when I was born in Norway. And I remember a war between Gotland and our region in South Norway. And I remember becoming a Christian and going to Jerusalem and going to see the Pope in a northern city in Italy. So yeah, so there are some characters there that you can search and they exist. But it was not a very known story.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know how the pyramids were built in Egypt?
A part of it.
Okay.
I can remember that the priests and priestesses did everything with sound. They use sound. So they have these specific stones and canes that made a high vibration, and they would design the patterns in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So they would use that water to crack the stones, and then with the vibration of the same water, like very high resonance in the water, the stones would float, and they would just push it.
Wow.
And there were a lot of people working in the constructions of the pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
There were no spaceships.
So no aliens.
No aliens?
No, no aliens.
That was my prediction.
Sorry. But they helped at the beginning.
Okay.
Not with spaceships, but basically they were helping with the designs of how to do it. So they taught people, we call them the blue ones, the ones that received the information. So they were untouchable. They were covered all the time with veils, and we couldn't see them. And they were high in the mountains, and they would talk to the aliens from Sirius, from Arcturus, and they would send the information through them, and they would come back and tell which frequencies and which patterns we should use in order to move the stones, where to put them, and so on.
Wow.
So they were not directly involved in the construction. They were basically like
advisors.
Why aren't they still here?
What?
Why aren't they still advising? Why did they left us?
Because we have to have a specific composition in our brain to be wide open to perceive the fourth dimension, because they communicate through time, not through space, mainly. So basically they need like a whole consciousness, a network of consciousness connected in order to be download. How do I describe this? Like if every person is a Wi-Fi by its own, okay, but everyone is in different rate of, you know, like some are still with the old one, you know, like some is 5G, some others 3G, you know, so it's like so if a lot of people goes to 5G very fast and all at the same time, so they can communicate, they can relate, because it's like trying to download the whole information of the entire planet in your phone. It's impossible.
Right.
Yeah. So also because that can produce you cancer or any kind of diseases, because the frequency is different. So your cells are not aligned to that amount of frequency that they need in order to be here.
Wow.
So that's why they could only communicate through specific people, through dreams, through messages, through frequencies, and in certain periods of time when the people have been all, as a population, prepare to resound in the same frequency.
That's crazy.
Which Atlantis did.
Have you ever seen or conversed with an alien?
Yes, I had.
And was the skin wet or dry?
Wet or dry?
We have this inside joke.
So to be fair, we'll be fair to. Right, you heard this outside. We're going to be fair to Ariel.
Okay.
In your experience with aliens, have they been dry or clammy?
Depends on the species.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So both.
I told him there was multiple.
Of course.
So both answers are correct.
If they are based in silica, they don't have wet hands.
Okay. It settles. I mean, experience.
So we're both right. We're both right.
Then
it depends on the species.
Do aliens have names the way that we do?
Not all of them.
Some of the species do.
Mm-hmm.
What are do you have any alien names that you've encountered? That you
remember a life being one of them, and I was Arak.
Okay.
Yes.
How do they talk to each other? Is it English or is it telekinesis?
Oh, it's like in packages of data. So they basically like you see geometry when they try to talk to you.
Oh wow.
And it's like shocking.
Right.
And they call it light language. So people start to say things that they don't understand. Like it's like too much,
Mm-hmm.
too much things that you cannot process. So you make sounds that sounds like words, but actually they are not words. It's just the vibration between the lines of the pattern of the information that they give into you.
Wow.
So it's like they are given a tetrahedron of data of information, and you start to say like these sounds, like, but actually it's like tung, 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 tung. So it's like the frequency between and it sounds like words.
Interesting.
Can you train us to do all this stuff?
Train.
Yeah, train, teach, download.
Well, I usually by mistake once I took some friends on a trip to Egypt.
How do you take?
By mistake?
Yeah.
Because I went.
I gotta hear that story.
Because I basically had to go for a personal thing, a personal mission, and three of my friends said, "We can go with you. We can accompany you." Okay, great. So through that path, I started to reconnect and felt so many things, and so many weird things happened, and we rented the pyramid. One of the weird things that I discovered that year that you can do, which is rent the Great
You could
Pyramid.
rent the
You
pyramid?
can rent
Yes,
the Great Pyramid.
You can rent the
So you
Great
could
Pyramid.
climb it and...
No, climb not.
Oh, no.
That's illegal.
Okay.
But you can be inside. You can...
How much does it cost to rent the Great Pyramid?
2,400.
Let's do it.
Let's
2,400 for 2 hours.
What was it like inside? Did you get
2,400
lost? Because it's got to
hours.
be huge in there, right?
No.
No?
No, actually it's a narrow path, and then you can choose which chamber you want. I recommend the high one.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go there, the sound is perfect.
Mm.
And I recommend to turn off all the lights. So it seems that you are levitating in the middle of the universe. And when you start to hum, you feel the hum everywhere. And it's a perfect resonance. And suddenly, well, things could happen. With me, a lot of weird things happen when I start to connect there. And so a lot of information and things happened when I went there for the first time like that, 2 hours alone with these friends. And there were so many channelings and discoverings and activating information that they had inside that they had no idea they had, that they said, we have to bring people to do this. So since that moment, I've been taking people through the Nile to make a process of teaching what we knew 12,000 years ago, what the temples were used for, what is the energy of each one of the stages of Egypt, until you reach the pyramid and you know why exactly you need to enter the pyramid and how to work with that. And people start to...
When are we going?
There were people that had ayahuasca and bufo experience for a whole life, and when they lived inside, they never had that experience with bufo or so sometimes it's like annoying, and sometimes it's like you just open and suddenly many things happen.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Is Bigfoot real?
A what?
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Oh no.
No? Okay.
Not anymore, I think. Maybe they existed.
Well, you
once,
mentioned giants and reptilians used to roam the earth.
Oh,
right?
yes, but long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I think they don't exist anymore.
Wow.
They are not around here anymore.
I wish I could see a giant.
I want to see some of this stuff. I want to like.
I want to see.
I think we got to go to Egypt.
Yeah.
So if you want to mistakenly take Sean and I to Egypt, like your other friends.
How did I
Yeah.
end up here?
Yeah.
Sometimes happen.
Yep.
How important is laughter?
Laughter is the main thing for basically. I was once channeling a being from the fifth dimension in an event many years ago in 2011, and suddenly everyone was like in this moment of connection, very high, and the being said, "Laugh, humans, laugh," and everyone started to laugh, and the whole energy changed. Like even though a storm appeared from nowhere, it was like
Wow.
It was like very crazy what happened, and they always explained laughter helps the brain to relax, and it creates like a shock of hormones that activates the whole body. So laughter is basically a very important tool for the spirit realm. If you don't laugh, you're not very connected to your own spirit.
Wow.
Spirit comes from the word spirare in Latin, that means to breathe. So a spiritual person is the one that allows himself to breathe properly, and not only breathe properly, but also use the breathing system, which is through singing, laughing. So everything that comes from the air, breath, laughter connects you much more to the spirit than sometimes hours of meditation.
What is the correct way to breathe? Is it through your nose or through your mouth?
Nose. Always the nose. The mouth is when you need to do a rebirth process, for example. When you need to gain back energy because you have lost it.
I'm already practicing. I've been doing it wrong for 30 years.
But the nose is the right one, because the nose goes straight to the pineal gland, and the air, when it goes straight here, it like hits the right place of the spirit. So that's why spirare is connecting with the spirit.
Wow.
And when you let the air go through the nose too, the process of activation in the center of your brain is much correct, soft, than when you do it with the mouth. The mouth was designed to eat. So you only eat air when you are in need of something.
It's good to know.
Otherwise, just nose.
I gotta work on the mouth breathing.
Hostage tape.
Yeah, hostage tape, right? So what's next for you?
Well, right now, my goal is to basically create a conscious university, online mainly. One part will be free. The other part will be to support everything that we are doing. And the main idea is to download all the information that spiritually I have been receiving related to a social evolution, which is called ontocracy, a system based in biology, a social system based in biology, guided by the self. So we are working with a foundation to create educational content for people to understand better how it is to create a society based in yourself. And trying to create a very crazy idea, which is the first state of consciousness, actual state, like a country, based on that system.
Wow.
Related to the inner self, and applied to technology and AI.
I'd love to help promote that. I really believe in what you're doing.
When I have everything like much more organized, I will share it to you.
Yeah, of course. I really believe in his mission, man.
I love it.
It's powerful to be able to educate people on this topic.
And it's something that not enough people are talking about, and something that I think people are a little scared to jump into because they might find out more about themselves than they may want to.
Yes, taught
For sure.
mainly science, which is a very good path, biology and science, to find the spirit. But they're still afraid to find it by themselves.
Matias, it's been a pleasure. I hope next time we all meet, we're a bit more enlightened, and we can have a better part two. But any closing thoughts for people watching?
Well, as you said, three main tools to change your life, and to connect much more with your higher self, which is take care of what you eat, because food becomes you. So whatever you want to become, eat that. Second, breathing is for the soul, to balance the frequency, the harmony. When you breathe through the nose, you start to meditate even if you are not meditating. So you're connecting with that. And as I said, laughter. Remember to laugh about everything. Because after that, any spiritual or any tool, whatever you can choose in your life, it doesn't matter. If you follow those three, your body will be aligned with your purpose.
Wow.
So,
There's the formula for getting to heaven, guys.
Yep.
yeah.
That's powerful.
It's very simple and also very complicated.
Yeah. People overthink it for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Digital Social Hour, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.